Before this video begins, I would like to give a quick thank you to my Asban Team level patrons Fallon Cortez and Nathan Gibson. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Well, it's that time again. We're in the festive month of May, so you know what that means. It's time for good old Harbo Wholmes to review a Doctor Who Christmas special, because it's truly the most festive time of the year. As you may know, I have a pretty contentious relationship with Doctor Who Christmas specials. Most of them are what kids these days refer to as mid. Yeah, no, I'm never saying that ever again. But anyway, the one special that breaks this trend above all others is 2014's Last Christmas, a truly phenomenal story seeing dreams within dreams, facehuggers, and Santa Claus himself. There's a lot going on. But what makes this special so good? Why is Last Christmas such a standout episode wrapping up Series 8 in style? Well, as always, that's what I'm here to find out. So grab your nearest turkey leg and watch out for those pesky dream crabs, because it's time to take a deep dive into Last Christmas.
Because every Christmas is Last Christmas.
So at the very end of Death in Heaven, there was a surprising mid-credit scene of none other than Santa Claus himself bursting into the TARDIS. It was a pretty wild cliffhanger, but I like how Last Christmas does integrate Santa, who is fittingly played by Nick Frost. Get it? Because his name is Nick, you know, like Saint Nick. Doctor Who at Christmas had become a bit of a tradition ever since 2005, with all sorts of traditional Christmas iconography showing up in the old Blue Box show. We had killer Christmas stars, killer Christmas trees, killer baubles, and killer Santas. A lot of killing there. But it's safe to say that the show had covered a lot of iconic Christmas concepts. However, one thing Doctor Who on TV had never really done was feature Santa Claus himself, which is something showrunner Stephen Moffat was keen to rectify, since he thought an on-screen meeting between the Doctor and Santa was long overdue. But of course, Santa is fictional, right? There's no way he could actually exist. And yes, that's a constant lingering question during Last Christmas, with this ridiculously over-the-top Santa complete with wisecracking elves and reindeer. Hell, the North Pole is even revealed to be an actual colourful pole. It all seems too good to be true, but the episode plays it so perfectly that you're never really all that in doubt that Santa might actually exist. Moffat very carefully treads that line to great effect.
Do you really believe in Santa Claus?
Last Christmas doesn't jump the festive shark by outright saying Santa is real, but from his very first appearance on Clara's rooftop, there's a sincerity about Nick Frost's performance that genuinely makes you believe in him. He actually feels like the man behind the myth, so to speak, with his snide remarks and grumpiness actually making him feel like more of a character rather than an unrealistic caricature who can do no wrong. I feel like there are actually a lot of parallels to the Doctor himself, an ancient and wise character with immense power and knowledge, things only dwarfed by his whimsical charm. The Doctor and Santa have some absolutely wonderful spats during this episode, trying to one-up each other, and their arguments make for a brilliantly surreal sight.
Shut up, Santa.
The Doctor refuses to believe that Santa could ever remotely be real, despite he himself being a ridiculous and larger-than-life character. After all, is it really that much of a stretch of the imagination to believe that a bearded old man can travel the world overnight and deliver presents, when this is also a universe featuring a grumpy old Scottish man who can travel the universe in a 1960s police box, which also happens to be bigger on the inside? It's a beautiful piece of commentary on the magic and wonder of the Doctor as a character, showing how incredible and mythical this figure is. The Doctor is amazing and impossible, but so is Santa, and I think that works really well in this story as we get to see these parallels being drawn by Moffat, who has always considered the Doctor as this mythical and eternally magic character. Moffat's writing can always kind of be summed up as the Doctor being like Santa, but for all ages.
I've always believed in Santa Claus, but he looks a little different to me.
But of course, the question remains, why is Santa in Doctor Who? Well, it all comes down to the power of dreams. After the Doctor and Clara reunite on her rooftop, they suddenly find themselves on a polar research base alongside misfit researchers Professor Albert, Shona, Bellows and Ashley. And yes, I know Albert is played by Michael Troughton, son of second Doctor Patrick, so you can stop your trivia typing in the comments. This supporting cast is fleshed out very well, feeling like a unique set of characters with their their own personalities. But the true star is Shona, who we meet as she's dancing to Slade, which is an immensely entertaining moment for the episode. It's a way to immediately make Shona endearing and likeable, which is important for the rest of the episode as she stands out from the rest of the cast. By this point, it's no secret that Shona was originally a candidate to become the next companion, taken over from Clara after this episode. And you can really see how the spotlight is put on Faye Marseille's performance, with her interrogation of Santa a particularly brilliant scene. Her skepticism of the jolly bearded man with flying reindeers instantly makes her solid companion material, showing how she's such a grounded person in a crazy and absurd situation. I really enjoy Shona, and I wish she had come back to the show in some form after this episode, especially because of her bittersweet ending as she desperately tries to organise a meetup, only for everyone else to disappear and she wakes up all alone in the real world. It's a really sad moment, such a bright character forced back into bland reality, especially with that whole meta aspect of her no longer being planned as a companion. So, you know, she's up there with Penny Carter as companions who could have been.
Do you want to hang out sometime? We can just hang out.
However, despite all the endearing quirkiness of this would-be companion, there remains a bit of a lingering question. What is Shona doing here?
You don't seem much like a scientist.
Well, that's a bit rude coming from a magician.
Obviously, she is very intelligent and capable, but she does kind of stick out within this 4-person crew and doesn't seem to fit in as an Arctic researcher. The other 3 make sense, but why is Shona there?
Long story, isn't it?
Indeed, all of these characters are dreaming up this scenario thanks to the monstrous dream crabs. When it came to writing Last Christmas, Moffat was inspired by Simon Nye's Series 5 episode Amy's Choice, which was a reality-bending story all about dreams within dreams and questioning whether a sleeper has actually awoken or is still deep asleep. And naturally, this creates for some absolutely blisteringly good storytelling in Last Christmas as we jump through multiple dreams, always certain in the episode's assumptions that there is some sort of base reality, only for that to be ripped away multiple times too, always leaving you disoriented and questioning everything, but we'll get to all of that in due course. I first of all want to talk about the dream crabs themselves, which were rather obviously inspired by the facehuggers from Alien and achieve the same terrifying effect of clamping themselves onto the face of their victims. But as Shona's DVD list at the end shows, the inspirations don't end there, with the setting of the base inspired by the novella Who Goes There and its adaptations The Thing from Another World and, more famously, 1982's The Thing. This basic setup of a polar research base under siege from relentless aliens would be nothing new for Doctor Who. In fact, the second Doctor era was full of these so-called base under siege stories. But what really sets Last Christmas apart is how the dream crabs operate and all the twists and turns they lead the narrative down. They start off as the typical Moffat monster, creatures that can only operate when the characters think about them. Similar to Weeping Angels, Don't Blink, this is kind of like Don't Think. This therefore forces the protagonists to find new ways to try and distract their minds, even if that means dancing to Christmas music. It creates such an imposing and terrifying atmosphere with nowhere feeling safe. The dream crabs are relentless in their silent, stoic pursuit, and their dream state attacks create this uneasy atmosphere of mistrust in the surroundings, because the characters have no way of knowing whether their reality is even real or not. I love how the Arctic-based setting of Last Christmas is achieved. Like I mentioned, there are heavy inspirations from The Thing, and the setting of Last Christmas manages to execute the same kind of desolation that ran throughout that iconic horror movie. It's terrifying to think about what might lurk underneath our planet, what creatures might be frozen in the ice of the Arctic tundra. Doctor Who has done settings and stories like this before, and Last Christmas doesn't even spend a whole lot of time focusing on the base or the North Pole environment. But it does create such an excellent backdrop with so much isolation. This is a snowy wasteland, and our protagonists are trapped inside a cold, dark base with nowhere to run. It's such a fantastic part of the episode, and I love it, making such a wide open part of the world into a closed off and constrictive place. Last Christmas has such a terrifying sense of personal claustrophobia and uncertainty perfectly executed at every level. Obviously the cast do a fantastic job of showing this fear and terror, but I think the real unsung hero of the episode is director Paul Wilmhurst, who who had already created thrilling and dark cinematic vibes for Kill the Moon and Mummy on the Orient Express. This means Last Christmas looks unlike any other Doctor Who Christmas special. It has such a high concept and stylish sheen to it, with a delightfully dark and invasive tone. Wilmhurst's direction manages to go from fun and festive to claustrophobic and terrifying within seconds, and that tonal whiplash works in the episode's favour because it continues to push that idea of disorientation. There's so much pure tension baked into the episode, and one of my favourite moments comes as Clara finds herself a victim of the dream crabs, propelled into a dream with Danny Pink, with the Doctor's pleas for her to wake up plastered across all of these chalkboards. The direction here is absolutely astounding, and I love how the camera work is done here, utilising things like depth of field and perspective to add so many layers to such a simple scene, instantly making it stand out. It's like something out of a genuine horror movie, especially with the music and the Dutch angles creating that sense of psychological horror and tension. The whole scene creates such a pit in your stomach and gives you an uneasy sensation because as a viewer, you know Clara is just dreaming, yet you can see how she's refusing to acknowledge reality even though it's killing her. It's beautiful visual storytelling, and I just really wanted to show some love to it, because in my opinion it's one of the best pieces of directing and cinematography in the entire Capaldi era. But another thing this scene shows is how character driven Last Christmas is at its core.
When I wake up, you won't be there.
Indeed, beyond all the dream crabs and Santa shenanigans, the episode is a character piece exploring all sorts of themes and emotions like grief, loss, belief, and belonging. You know, all the fun and festive Christmas themes you'd expect. But for real, I really like how Clara's dream takes the form of her spending Christmas with Danny, who had been unfairly ripped away from her in the Series 8 finale. Their relationship had been rocky, but there was so much left unsaid, and they had been on course to finally make some progress before he was suddenly hit by a car and then turned into a Cyberman. Clara didn't just have her heart broken, it was ripped out of her chest, thrown on the floor, stomped on by a herd of wild animals, and then the remains were put into a blender, turned into a hot smoothie, and poured down the drain. She was left completely devastated for obvious and understandable reasons. Danny was simply a victim of circumstance, and it makes sense that Clara's dream would take this form of her denial, still believing that she can somehow be with him even though she knows he's dead without any doubts. Like seriously, she saw him die 3 times. It's a genuine surprise when Samuel Anderson appears in this episode, but it makes complete sense at the same time, both in the narrative and on an audience level.
Danny Pink, I love you, and I'll never see you again, and I'm sorry.
Clara didn't really get any proper closure in Death in Heaven. I know she got multiple last chances to talk to Danny after his death, but those were always tinged with the hope that he might still be able to come back from his death in some tangible form. But Last Christmas finally gives her that chance to actually say goodbye properly, even if she does fall back into that denial once again.
You just wake up, just leave me here, please.
Indeed, we know that Danny is still dead, we know Clara is currently dreaming, but that doesn't make it any less bittersweet to see them sharing this last day together. Their scenes together are so simple yet beautifully effective at the same time. It's a window into that simple and relatable home life we never really got to see them share due to the nature of the show. Clara knows none of it is real, but that doesn't stop her from wanting to enjoy it while it lasts, even if that means she's dying herself in the process. Clara even outright tells the Doctor to leave her to die in this dream along with Danny, the man she loves. It's almost like she feels she owes Danny this loyalty after mistreating him for so long during Series 8. It's as if she thinks this is a way she can deal with that guilt, even though this isn't the real Danny, it's just her perception and memory of him. That's why it's so interesting when even this dream construct tells Clara to listen to the Doctor and leave the dream. Much like Santa himself during the bulk of the episode, it's Clara's subconsciousness trying to help her out and save her life. But it's fitting that Danny is Clara's voice of reason, because he was always her anchor to reality in the human world, serving as a rugged sense of responsibility.
I'm a dream and you know I am, right?
It doesn't matter whether this is the real Danny or not, what matters is what he represents. She needs to hear this stuff, and it's a touching way for her to move on and finally accept the reality of Danny's death. I know a lot of people give this relationship some grief and criticise it, but I really respect Last Christmas for taking the time to give this final, conclusive, emotional ending to Clara and Danny's relationship. It's a nice tribute to the realistically flawed romance they shared, whilst also progressing Clara's personal story by allowing her to close this chapter in her life and return to her travels with the Doctor.
Every Christmas is Last Christmas, and this is ours.
The idea of how the dream crabs operate is equal parts terrifying and fascinating, since they lull you into such a false sense of reality, but much like the Weeping Angels, it's almost a peaceful and merciful way to die.
Somebody has put a straw right through your skull and is drinking you.
Sure, the reality is that now your face has a giant blue crab thing stuck to it, which is now sticking a straw into your brain and sucking you dry. But you don't actually feel the process, you're dreaming happy dreams and reliving sweet memories as you go, which is actually a nice way to die when you think about it. And throughout the episode we watch as characters fall victim to the distractions of the dream, never truly allowing themselves to question their surroundings and their situation, because it feels so real and natural to them. Even the audience find ourselves too cozy to ask the important and obvious questions staring us right in the face. I like how Moffat turned some of his usual weaknesses into actual plot points. Way back in 1999 he parodied Doctor Who's reliance on the idea of "I'll explain later," something he himself would fall into doing regularly in his actual episodes, hand waving away plot developments and events with the simple "I'll explain later" or "it's a long story." This isn't a knock on Moffat, it's obviously hard to squeeze everything into such a relatively short runtime, and Doctor Who had the same problem long before him, but I really enjoy how he makes all of this into an actual feature of Last Christmas. Whenever the Doctor questions the researchers about what they're doing here, why they're here, how long they've been here, they always reply with, "It's a long story." Because yeah, that's basic dream logic. You don't understand how or why you're suddenly back in school and haven't been to history class for half of the year and suddenly have an exam to take. But you just accept that as reality until you wake up. That's what Moffat is tapping into here with the repeated phrase, something you don't actually notice for a while because you're too caught up in everything else going on. Both the characters and the audience are too immediately accepting of the situation and the events without ever really thinking about it, which is an excellent two-pronged narrative direction. On one side, it allows Moffat to cheat and skip over things like characterization and world building, so we can get straight into the action. And on the other side, it creates that atmosphere of the whole thing being a dream without anyone knowing, setting up for the rug to be pulled from under us in spectacular fashion. I like how the reality of everything is so deconstructed piece by piece. As far as we, the audience, are aware, the dream only began when the Doctor and Clara arrived at the base and all the characters were attacked by the dream crabs coming down from the ceiling. From that point on, Santa appears, everything becomes wild and surreal. We assume that's all the dream. Not just a dream, but the dream. Hell, we don't even know it's a dream for the majority of the episode. Not until the Doctor returns from Clara's dream and the characters all realise they have the ice cream pains, meaning they're all dreaming.
Since the attack in the infirmary, nothing has been real.
Indeed, Santa has always been there as the body's response to the dream crabs, explaining the presence of a fantastical figure who is helping them fight back. He and the Doctor allow the characters to realise they're dreaming, using that excellent book page method to alert themselves to the fact. This is a brilliant scene, taking obvious inspiration from the totems from Inception. There is no such thing as the Hellman-Ziegler test in our real world, but the general idea still holds weight and works for the episode, being able to check pages to see if their words match. It's a great way to achieve that reveal of them being in a dream, the gradual revelation of the pages all being different.
Chocolate. And why did I get chocolate? What's that about?
And of course, they're all able to wake up, things go back to normal, the crisis is over, Christmas continues with barely a turkey feather ruffled. Except, as the audience, we should know better, but we got swept up in the moment that we stopped questioning things. Like Santa says before they wake up,
"Have you been paying attention?"
By this point in the episode, it's been so long since the cold open, we kind of forget about it, which was clearly Moffat's intention, because there's so much evidence that the characters are still dreaming, we just unconsciously ignore it, just like the characters themselves have been doing. Even the Doctor finds himself missing the obvious, and it takes Clara's sudden realisation for him to see the light. After all, if Santa was just a dream, why was he on the roof in the scene that brought the Doctor and Clara back together?
Do you know what I hate about the obvious?
What?
Missing it.
This is a brilliant second twist that once again preys on the viewer's blind acceptance of everything going on. The Doctor himself had previously said that there can be dreams within dreams within dreams, and that we should never trust anything. We should have realised that they were in another dream when he and Clara had the Danny dream within the original Polar Base dream, but because the Doctor decided to leave so quickly, we never had time to question things further. I love how this actual new dream is revealed as the Doctor finally pieces things together, realising that there are 4 patients, 4 manuals, yet supposedly 8 crew. It's one of those brilliant reveals that makes you feel giddy and invested in the episode, especially with the payoff of even Clara saying it's a long story. The penny drops in such a perfectly executed way, I can't help but love everything about it. The revelation of the sleepers actually being the same researchers we've been watching all episode. The entire atmosphere suddenly feels more tense than ever, and we finally realise we genuinely can't trust anything anymore, even if the characters do, because you know, Grand Moff has got us wrapped around that tiny little pinky finger of his. I love how Last Christmas doesn't really rely on big action scenes like some other specials do. The closest thing to an action sequence is the chase scene as the main characters have to try and escape the sleepers, which are multiplying rapidly due to nightmare logic, creating such a terrifying visual as they close in on the characters, like a horde of zombies in the snowy darkness. There's a great feeling of hopelessness, especially as the TARDIS is compromised too. But this is where Moffat is smart again and shows how the characters have learned. They've actually taken on board the lessons from throughout the episode, knowing how to combat the dreams and fight back.
Come on, it's Christmas, the North Pole. Who are you gonna call?
I feel like it's only possible in Doctor Who for Santa Claus to be a Deus Ex Machina coming in to save the day, and for it to not feel patronising or undeserved or out of place or anything like that. The episode has repeatedly told us that he's the way their brains can help them fight back against the crabs, and he's something that all the characters can equally manifest as a tangible entity, something they can all believe in for this one night. So it's genuinely rewarding when he swoops down to save them in his sleigh, and this sleigh ride scene provides the exact kind of cathartic, feel-good bliss so many Doctor Who specials love to sprinkle in. It's a beautiful ride through the skies of London, with even the Doctor enjoying the moment and taking the reins himself. Capaldi puts in an expected top-class performance in Last Christmas, with iconic moments such as the Doctor casually deleting the researchers from his memory. But this scene here allows us to see the 12th Doctor embracing his childish and light side, something he wasn't really able to do in the darker stories of Series 8. It's an amazing and liberating moment, the character just reveling in the ridiculous joy of a sleigh ride with Santa, even though he knows jolly old Saint Nick isn't real.
You're a dream construct.
But even in their 12th incarnation, the Doctor still has that childish glee and whimsy, so I think it's a wonderful scene to really bring that out and show him in a new yet very familiar light. During this sleigh ride, all the characters begin to wake up one by one, escaping the dream crabs, which disintegrate into a big old pile of dust, which for me would probably just be dandruff. I'd probably not think anything of it. Well, actually, I say they all escape, except for Professor Albert, who got sucked into a computer screen and died horrifically. Oops. I mean, there's always one, isn't there? It's a bittersweet moment as the characters depart, each returning to that mundane reality I touched upon when talking about Shona earlier. Take Bellows for example, with the reveal that in the real world she is actually a wheelchair-bound grandma rather than a badass polar research leader. I've seen some people claim this reveal is ableist or offensive in some way, and I suppose that's fair enough, but it's not really a debate I personally feel qualified to weigh in on. But on a purely narrative level, it creates that sense of these characters coming back down to earth and having to face their very normal lives once again. But alas, Clara Oswald just cannot do it. She can't let go and just wants a few more minutes in the dream. Indeed, the Doctor wakes up and immediately tracks down Clara, only to find the dream crab still latched on her face, sucking her dry like the 11th Doctor wished he could. This gives us another great twist as we find out Clara is actually now an old woman, having lived an entire life without the Doctor.
About 62 years.
Obviously, the old age makeup makes Clara the latest in a long line of Doctor Who's bad elderly makeup characters. But the scene itself is very touching and emotional, the Doctor expressing genuine regret that he never came back for Clara. Series 8 showed how close their relationship is and how strong their bond is, so you can really understand why the Doctor would feel so remorseful about leaving her alone for 62 years, with her growing old and him staying the exact same, because for him it's barely been any time at all. It's that same kind of reminder of mortality the Doctor always tries to run from, something we've seen throughout modern Doctor Who as the character tries to avoid watching the people they love grow old and die. I adore the scene as 12 helps the elderly Clara pull a Christmas cracker. It's a direct parallel to the beautifully heartbreaking moment in Time of the Doctor where it's the other way around and Clara helped the aging 11th Doctor pull a cracker because he was too weak. That scene was a fantastic way to show that deep, eternal love these two characters share, and this parallel is very much the same. a callback showing how this relationship has grown and changed, with their roles shifting as they become more like equals, truly helping each other grow.
These are Christmas hats. I've seen people use them. You put them on and absolutely anything seems funny.
It's extra emotional with the reveal that the Doctor genuinely can't tell the difference between young Clara and elderly Clara. It's really sweet and once again highlights that powerful love between these two platonic soulmates.
Can you really see no difference in me?
Clara Oswald, you'll never look any different to me.
That's how much she means to him, and we properly understand it because of how close they've been over the course of Series 7B and 8. They've been through so much, and he cares for her so deeply that she's ageless to him, and I can't help but see it as a beautiful touch for these characters. Now, like I alluded to earlier, Jenna Coleman was originally set to leave Doctor Who at the end of Series 8, but signed on for Last Christmas so she could have one last story alongside Peter Capaldi, because she enjoyed working with him so much. Therefore, as far as I am aware, this episode would have seen Clara die as a way to permanently write the character out of the show. Things would have largely stayed the same, but this episode would have gone slightly differently. After this bittersweet reunion, the Doctor would have bid farewell to the older Clara. There would then be a dream sequence of Clara ascending the spiral staircase from the snowmen as her form shifts between the many splinters from Series 7 before finally taking the form of the Clara we watched travelling with the Doctor, and she smiles as the TARDIS flies away into the stars. I think this would have been a really sweet and fitting send-off for the Impossible Girl, paying tribute to the impact she left on the show and the Doctor himself. So if Last Christmas had ended that way, it still would have been a great departure for Clara as a character, although I'm never going to complain about getting more Clara Oswald. However, after taking part in the read-through for Last Christmas, Jenna Coleman told Moffat she had changed her mind and wanted to stay after all, something old Grand Moff over here had already prepared an alternative draft for, which is what we get here as the elderly Clara is revealed to be yet another dream. Say what you want about this, but this is one last twist in an episode full of incredible and unexpected twists, but I think it's probably the most important because it provides this second chance for the Doctor and Clara to properly reunite and return to their travels. Death in Heaven had ended with them both lying to protect each other's emotions. It was a good ending for them, but it had the side effect of things being left on a pretty downbeat ending. I'm glad Last Christmas acknowledges that plot development and doesn't just have them immediately reconciling.
I lied, so you'd go home to Gallifrey instead of fussing about me.
Moffat makes the dreams in Last Christmas about the hopes and fears of the main characters, which is all related to them travelling together again. So we get this slow build up to them actually being able to achieve that literal dream of being together again as they're given a second chance, returning to actual reality where Clara isn't old and they can finally hop back into the TARDIS. I love the sheer joy the Doctor feels as he gets that second chance, an emotional reaction made even richer by his earlier guilt and regret. Murray Gold's score swells up in this incredible way to punctuate the triumphant emotion of the moment, and it always makes me tear up. It's not just the script telling us that this is a second chance, it genuinely feels like a second chance both on screen and off, because we almost didn't get this from a production standpoint.
You know what's rarer? Second chances.
Much like the song it's named after, Last Christmas is an absolute timeless masterpiece. I cannot gush about this episode enough. I genuinely think it's flawless and one of Stephen Moffat's best Doctor Who scripts. Every level of the episode is exceptional. Murray Gold contributes another incredible score combining festive sounds and intense sci-fi action. Paul Wilmhurst's direction brings the episode to life with such claustrophobic tension, and it's all brought home perfectly by the acting of Peter Capaldi, Jenna Coleman, and their wonderful supporting cast. Any flaws in the writing and characterization of the episode are covered by the excellent multi-layered dream gimmick, which also plays with audience expectations and takes advantage of how easily we accept what the show presents us. There's a media concept known as dramatic irony, where the viewer is aware of events and character motivations unknown to characters themselves within the piece of media. As an audience, we have an almost omniscient eye, able to see everything without being trapped in the perspective of one character. However, Moffat subverts that kind of media theory completely with Last Christmas, making us just as lost and confused as the Doctor himself is, unsure of what's a dream and what's real because we find ourselves tricked by the dream crabs and their many levels of reality. The constant fake outs never really get tiring, and the twists always feel interesting and surprising, so it makes for a truly thrilling and exciting episode. Therefore, not that any of you will be shocked, Last Christmas gets a shining S rank on the Series 8 and Specials tier lists. It's everything you could want from Doctor Who. There are exciting chases, a base undersea besieged from terrifying monsters, incredible acting, and high concept storytelling covering all sorts of interesting themes and concepts. Hell, it somehow even manages to make literal Santa Claus work. It also breaks your heart over and over again with so many goddamn emotional scenes that never fail to make me cry like a baby. So yeah, if you hadn't already guessed, I absolutely love Last Christmas. And hopefully, if you made it this far, you do too. So I hope you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And an extra special thank you to my Bantam level patrons Fallon Cortez and Nathan Gibson, my Platinum level patrons Maximilian Foreman and Nick's Games, and all my Gold level patrons Boots, Calvin, Daniel Shilato, Francois aka Line Vortex, Herna Verzog, and Tom Azar. Thank you so much for your support.